Welcome to the Artist Notepad, where we explore artistry, we talk life, and bam, 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 bam.
I've been really trying, baby. Try to hold back this feeling so long.
Nice. Oh, I didn't know you would go to the second line as well.
Do you want me to keep
I'm
going?
David. Oh no, let me finish, Jack. Let me finish and then you can go, okay?
Okay.
I'm David.
And I'm Jack. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode, Tan and Chill, TNC, with just us once again. Today we're going to be talking about healthy relationships. Gross. But first, David, how you going?
I'm doing quite well, bruh. Another week in this beautiful COVID situation. But you know what? It's easing out, you know? Like, I've been having my pale ales right now. I'm sipping on Kaiju Crush, tropical pale ale.
Nice.
Beautiful stuff. Great to have with fried chicken. What else is happening? Friday, like cafes and restaurants and stuff could have 10 people at once. So I could actually serve people lattes and they could like hang out and chill and stuff.
I actually ate in a place today.
Where'd you go?
I got sushi.
You got sushi? You
Yeah.
really like sushi, bro.
Yeah, man.
I gotta take you to a good sushi joint, or we should go to Japan
Sushi or
together
kimbap?
in 2023. We're not doing this again.
Throwback to pre-podcast format. We're talking
man.
Rido X episode 1? Episode 1. You guys ever notice that there isn't an episode 1? It's because episode 1 is on YouTube with video and things.
It's exclusive.
Exclusive.
It's exclusive. But yeah, man, I'm doing quite well. I'm looking forward to tomorrow because now you can have more than 2 people at your house. By the way, I can't see you right now, just letting you know.
Oh,
For
seriously?
some reason.
For
Yeah,
real?
But
How about now?
yeah,
There we go.
now I could see you. There you go. Now it feels like a real thing. you
Sorry,
know?
I had you minimized because I got better things to look at.
Wow. That's so mean. Anyways, I'm looking forward to tomorrow because after my normal Sunday service and all that, we're going over to my mate's house to have yakitori and beer. So I'm really
Yum.
looking forward to that.
More like yummy Tory, am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, bruh. But yeah, I'll stop rambling on. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm
My
not bad,
good-
man.
My good white buddy old pal.
You really love bringing up the fact that I'm white, don't you? Like every episode, I swear, you get that in if possible.
No, every second episode, not every episode.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm not bad. I'm a little skeptical about how fast everything is going back to normal, but hey, it's nice to not feel guilty being outside. But yeah, I'm not bad. I'll tell you what, I am excited about something, David.
What are you excited
I'm
about?
excited that we've got a little giveaway to do.
Yeah!
Because before we go on to talk about healthy relationships
Yes.
with Exhibit A right here with you and I, David, due to unpopular demand, David and I have decided to
Yes.
reduce the ratings to every 5. Every 5 will be a winner now. So you've got more of a chance than ever to win a glorious Funko Pop, guys. And so we're going to be announcing the first one today. So we've got 5 reviews. The first one comes from Amelia, and she says, "Wow, I love the variety in your content. It makes my morning that much better." David, do you want to read the second one?
The second one is from Brandon, and it's titled Great Podcast. Very insightful podcast that provides a deep dive into the artistic process. Also, that Jack guy sounds hot.
Just to, I promise I didn't write that. I promise.
Bro,
But
that's
thank you,
definitely
Brandon.
your fake account. Look, it says brand C12345. That can't be a real username.
Look, let's be honest, David. I've got a face for a podcast, okay? We're just lucky you're the only one who has
That's
to see
exactly
it.
why you would make a fake account and make yourself look good, you know?
Damn it, you
But
got
anyways.
me. You got me. So our third one comes from Sean, and it says, "Quality all round. Love this. Immense respect for David and Jack. Humble blokes doing fantastic work. Well done, lads. Love heart." Thank you, Sean. That's very nice of you.
Mad love. The fourth one's from Dimitri, but it's titled "Love to See This." Great to see artists still finding outputs during such a hard time for creatives everywhere. Keep it up! Exclamation mark.
Nice. That's what we
We
want
sure
to hear.
will, Dimitri. We won't let you down, buddy. We're doing this for you.
Just you, no one else.
Just you.
All right. And the final one is from Jonty. And he says, "Hey guys, just want to say I love the podcast. Listen every week. Shaka." That's the you know what a shaka is, right?
Oh,
Dave?
man. Yeah. It's
How do you
this one.
describe a shaka? It's like
this
thumb
one.
and pinky out, and then you like shake it like a shaka.
Yeah, that used to be my favorite emoji. Now it's with the the index finger up as well, like this, like Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
I use that a lot now.
Cool.
Fun fact.
Good for you, man. Anyway, moving on. So using random number generator with any number between 1 and 5, we
is
got
exciting, man.
drum roll, please, David.
Boom.
Number
that too
2,
quick?
which is
Yeah. Who's number 2?
Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon.
Congratulations, Brandon.
You're just gonna give it to yourself, bro.
Look, he said that my voice sounded hot. So, guys, if you want to win, then you got to say that. That's the requirement. So, Brandon, we will get in touch. Or actually, can you please get in touch with us, because we may not have a contact for you. So, please get in touch with us, Brandon. Let us know which Funko Pop you'd like to choose from. You can have another little gaze at them on our Instagram at the Artist Notepad.
Yeah.
And check out which one you want. You only get one. Greedy.
Probably not Baby Yoda though.
David thinks it's creepy. I think it's cute, but I
Bro,
guess
it's creepy. He does not have white in his eyes. It's just black. He's a demon. He's a little baby alien demon, bro.
you're a demon.
Whoa. See, this is a healthy relationship, isn't it?
Speaking of
Okay.
healthy relationships,
Oh.
David, I think that let's explain how we came up with this topic. So, this was last minute. I just got off the phone with a friend of mine, and they're going through a bit of a rough time in terms of there's someone that they, they're vibing with. They've met. They've gone on a couple of dates.
Got the vibes.
And they feel like possibly they're
in love.
they've caught more feelings than the other one has caught, and they're really vibing this person, and they want to make it more serious, but they're not sure whether that other person wants it. So we thought, why don't we talk about relationships, given we're so qualified to talk about relationships, aren't we, David?
But yeah, I do marriage counseling. I do. No, I'm kidding. I'm playing.
What are we going to start with, David? What makes a healthy relationship, in your opinion? What are the most important things that you need for your relationship to be healthy? And we're not just talking about romantic relationships. We're talking about family, friends, talking about anything really. Even just casual, just passerby. What?
Yeah, man.
How does that relationship be healthy and stay healthy?
I feel like off the top of my head, how I would describe a healthy relationship is, it has to have intimacy. Like, you have to be open to share your side as much as the other person shares their side. Like, that's why, because if we're talking about friendships or family or like a romantic relationship, right? In order for a relationship to grow, there has to be some depth to it, I feel. Like, if it's a work relationship, sure, it doesn't have to have that intimacy. You just talk about work and your weekend or whatever.
Sure.
But friendships and all that, I feel like you got to have intimacy. I think the second is probably respect. You got to respect the person. Third is probably trust. You got to trust that this person that you're being, intimate with, being respectful to, you can also trust this person. Absolutely. I feel like it comes with those three things, and I think it builds off that. But there's so much that I think makes a healthy relationship, but that's just me to start off.
That's a very good start. Very good start.
Thank you.
I would definitely say intimacy is important, but I wouldn't put it as far up the list as you have. I'm not saying that you've ranked these or anything, but
sure.
I think that trust is very important. I agree with you there.
Mm.
But I think that the most important thing for all successful relationships is communication, by far.
Mm.
And this is actually what I was telling to this friend of mine, because I felt like, excuse me, I felt like there was a lot of miscommunication happening between them and this other person. And I do feel like both of the parties involved were misinterpreting each other, and like because of previous negative experiences they've had, they were projecting onto the other person and being like making assumptions based on their experience, which is perfectly human. It's a very natural thing to do, is learn from our mistakes by looking out for those things more in the future. But the problem is that can lead to paranoia at times, where we read too much into situations. And so that's where communication becomes so important, for constant reassurance, constant affirmation if that person needs it. And over time, that trust builds from that communication, so that you don't need to constantly communicate anymore. That person doesn't need to be told every single minute that they're lovable or that they're loved, because they begin to believe that you love them, or that you aren't going to walk out on them, or that you're not going to hurt them, or that you're not going to tell their secrets to anyone else. You know, it's
right. But you're saying kind of like, I feel like it stems from intimacy though, and then that from intimacy it grows into trust, and to do that you need to communicate, right? And I feel like it was heading even towards like how you communicate your love, right? And then I guess we can even go towards like, you've heard of the 5 love languages, right?
Yep.
Maybe it's something we can go into, but like, yeah, it's like how a person would, first of all, I think like everyone, I don't believe that you're only one love language. It's like, oh, I only feel love when you buy me gifts. Like,
Sure.
I think that's BS, but I feel like everyone has those 5, but then it's just ranked differently. And like,
I agree.
so yeah, it's like communicating to the other person how that you love them, but then it's like how do you show that is the question, I guess.
I would disagree in terms of I don't think that intimacy and communication is the same thing. I think that, is that what you're saying? Maybe I've read that wrong.
I'm saying communication is important to become intimate, or like intimacy.
Don't you think that, like, because I'm saying communication, I think is the building block of a relationship, because it builds all these other things, including intimacy. Without good communication, you can't build intimacy, unless you're talking about just purely physical intimacy, which will grow old. And
sure.
Sorry, when I say you're talking, I don't mean you as an individual. I mean, if one is talking about physical intimacy, sure, you don't need to communicate that much. But then I suppose you're communicating through your physical language instead of through your emotional or verbal language. But I just think that there's so many opportunities to misinterpret and to doubt and to overthink situations, and good communication can be such a beneficial part of getting rid of all those toxic parts of your relationship by just dealing with them when they come up. Like, how often have you, like, we've all had problems which have popped up and we haven't really talked about them, and then they've ended up getting worse because we haven't communicated, or years later we found out, oh wow, that thing really hurt that person, and both of you got it wrong, because first of all, you knew it was wrong and you should have talked about it, but the other person, it was hurting them so much and they should have brought it up, so then it could be dealt with and you could reach some kind of closure and some kind of understanding. I feel like some of the worst wounds are formed by people feeling like they're not being understood in that situation. They're feeling like they're not being empathized with, and that's communication. You know, you need to talk about how you're feeling. You need to, and that is intimacy. Talking about how you're feeling, talking about your mistakes, talking about all these things that are personal to you, and sharing those does become intimate. But the communication has to come first. You need to work your way there. Something that I was talking to another friend about was I have another friend who jumps into relationships like head first. Just they don't understand the concept. So they do understand. That's harsh.
Romantic relationships, right? Or are you talking
kind
about
of all relationships? They just crave this intensity in their relationships. I think because they've been hurt, and so they're looking for. They want to straight away figure out whether that person is worth their time, and so they will just sort of needle their way through people. not in a negative way, but they'll just really quickly want to work out, are you worth my time? And if not, I don't want to waste my time with you and potentially be hurt by you. So they try and sort of work out exactly what they're going to get from that relationship. But honestly, like the best part for me about relationships is often, and this isn't romantic relationships, this is all relationships, particularly with the romantic relationships, but with all relationships really, is getting to know that person, falling in friendship, falling in love, falling through this process of first times, like, you know, and like getting to know each other slowly. It's fun, you know, and like,
Yeah.
I just enjoy the process of getting to know someone and like learning more about them. And you don't want to get that
Same,
all
bro.
away, all done, like put away in the first couple meetings, you know?
On the first date, you start talking about your deepest, darkest
Well,
secrets.
I'm not joking. I'm not joking that this happens. That people are doing this.
But like, I feel like it doesn't work for everyone. You know what I mean? Like, everyone has a timer on those type of things. It's like you just got to wait for that person to be open to share that room with you. Like one
Exactly.
analogy that I love using or referring to is my friend, a good friend of mine, was like, everyone is like a house, and when you enter that person or get to see what that person's about, their insides, they all have living rooms, and that's where anyone or everyone will be exposed to that side of them. And then you'll get to realize there's rooms within the house that are
Sacred.
open for certain people,
Yeah.
like for their romantic relationships, close friends, family, and stuff like that. Like you wouldn't show your family the romantic
Yeah,
room,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? So it's like, yeah, I like to think about it that way.
No,
So it's like
that's nice.
everyone's open to open different rooms and show different sides to them at their own pace. But it's about how you weigh it, like,
And
and
you
how
know,
you,
it's funny
yeah.
because like if I don't like the phrase, you know, you have to work for it, but like if you have worked for it, you know, if you haven't just been welcomed straight into the most private room in the house, when you are shown that room, there's more of a feeling of this is special than if it's just welcome to my room where like my most private stuff is. And you feel like, well, we've only just met, so do you show this to everyone? Like, is this even special that you're showing me? You know, like if you feel like you have to work to get there, then I feel like it's a special moment for both of you, I suppose, not just the person showing, because it is special to share these certain things, but also the person being showed, to be able to be, you know, feel
Yeah.
the privilege of being let into this sacred part of this person's life.
Yeah, because I feel like if it becomes something, if the information that you're sharing, or like as you said, if it's that easy, then it's no longer about sharing something with that person, but it's more about that person wanting to be like, oh, used to be like this, or I did this kind of thing.
It's funny
It's
because
more for themselves.
Yeah,
than,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just going to say it's funny because we're bringing up something which I was tempted to mention as one of my most valued qualities and in a relationship, and I think it's very important, is patience. And the ability to wait for someone really shows a lot about you, but it also shows about how much you care for them. Because, for example, let's take parenting. Let's switch it up a little bit and look at parenting. Like David and I,
Okay.
you know, there's only so much we can say about parenting because neither of us are parents. But
Yeah.
when I imagine myself as a father, which I'm sure a lot of us imagine ourselves as parents and having kids, I think that it must be so hard to just be patient with your kids and just allow them to grow
Yeah.
and not try and grow them too fast and not try and keep them as kids either. You just got to be patient and allow them to, you know, be free and sort of make their own way.
Yeah.
And allow them to make their own mistakes so that they can learn, instead of trying to prevent everything before it happens, try and put a band-aid on before the wound even before the wound even occurs.
Right. It's like adding, you know, those, see how the edges of tables or corners of tables are like,
Yeah.
like if a baby bumps it, it's bad. So like there's those protective things where
Sure.
you cover each corner of the desk or any sharp corner with that kind of thing. It's like you want kids to bump into those things, so they understand pain, they understand what happens or the consequences of making those type of mistakes. You don't want to, as you said, band-aid or
Sure.
put a safety cushion.
Unless they
like,
are
on
very
everything.
young, in which case I get it.
Yeah, like the baby stuff, I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
But, like,
But I agree with you. I
Yeah.
agree with you. And it's really important not to overprotect. And I think that people do that in friendships as well. I think people overprotect. They try and defend them too much. Like let's take the typical example of two friends when a girl or a guy does them wrong, you know, they're like, oh, this person sucks, you should hate them and stuff. And it's just like, no, like stop trying to be their warrior, like stop trying to be their fierce protector, just be their friend. And like taking an extreme side of things is not going to help them at all. Like don't tell someone to be angry when they've been hurt. Like that doesn't help. And I know people want to show that they care by saying, look how much I'm empathizing with you, I'm really angry. And maybe you are angry because someone's hurt someone you care about, and that's totally understandable. But you also have to think about what's best for the person that you really care about, because the reason why you're angry is because you care. So your reaction shouldn't be a selfish one. It should be one that is the most beneficial for that person. And that's where patience comes into it too, because instinctively you just want to be reactionary and react, but you need to be patient, and you'll have your moment to tell that person how that made you feel. But maybe the heat of the moment isn't the best time to be letting out these visceral emotions about people in their lives. I've definitely gotten into trouble with Amelia before for you know, certain things that I said about people, like her friends and stuff. Maybe someone's done something and I'm just like, and she'll be like pissed off, and so she'll be like, oh, you know, I wish she didn't do that. And then I'll be like, yeah, I know, right? Like, why did? And then she'd be like, hey now, I'm allowed to say that, you're not, all right? And it's just like this loyalty, which I'm sure we've all experienced, where like you can say bad things about, you know, your friends, your family and stuff, but when other people say it, it's like, nah, that's not for you to say. It's not your place.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Patience is like super important in relationships. And I feel like I would even want to like refer to like family, back to family again. But like, before I get to that though, I feel like one of the most important things I've learned in having good relationships is like when you're giving that example of like listening to someone when they're like going through something or something, and it's like, oh, I'm so mad and whatever, you're like trying to relate to the person and whatever. But I think one of the most important things I learned about that is sometimes when someone's ranting or like need a shoulder or like someone to just like speak out to, the best thing to do is just listen.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes it's best you don't even have an answer for them, because I don't think that's what they're looking for. Like everyone's story and their lives are different. So,
and that's part of communication is listening, like just shutting up and listening.
Yeah. So it's like, it's less genuine if, you know, you're like, oh yeah, I know how you must feel. It's like, no, you don't. You don't know how that person feels. It's like, you don't have to say that. You can just be like, you know, I'm here for you. You can just be like, just listen. Maybe even just sit in silence with them. You don't have to, you know, try to break the silence because it's awkward for you. Like standing that awkwardness for that person as well would mean a lot.
Yeah.
If that person is crying and you swell up in emotion because you feel that empathy for them, and you cry, that's a beautiful moment as well. You know,
that's a real
so
like connection.
I guess we were jumping back and forth and stuff, but we were about to ease into family, and I feel like family is one of the hardest places to be patient with. I don't know if you can relate, but it's like when it comes to a dating relationship, the most you can spend time with that person is how often you meet up with them. Like you can go on walks with them or go on like cafe dates or whatever, go have dinner or lunch every day, but it's different to living with someone, right? So I feel like family is very tricky or like challenging that in that sense. And one thing I'm kind of even grateful for this COVID situation, as weird as that sounds, is spending more time with my dad. And when I say that, it's like I shared this with like some friends throughout the week and stuff. But me and my dad had this long ass conversation. Like it was like 3 hour conversation, right? About like feelings were hurt. Like I brought up the past. I don't know if I should have, but emotions were just running and like things were just said and stuff like that, right? And one thing I realized is that my dad is a person too. He's lived a life that's
No.
yeah. He's a human. No. But what I mean is like he grew up in Korea, so he's a Korean man living in Australia. He's triple my age, and he just was brought up in a different type of world. It's like his family lacked a lot of like showing love, and like he doesn't know how to express those kind of things. He's like that stern father figure who's kind of just sitting in the back kind of thing, or like doesn't have much. Like I don't remember any memory of me and him during high school. Yeah, it's like through this COVID situation, it's kind of it made me realize like my dad is, you know, he might not know how to express certain things, but he always has the best intentions. Because it's like I feel like you can judge people based off what they do outside, but you don't know what their intentions are inside. And you might judge yourself based on your inside intentions, but you can't do that for other people. You know what I mean? And this was something I was talking about.
I suppose that's where the communication aspect comes in, because it sounds like all the other stuff is there. It's just
man. It's just the language barrier.
You guys haven't.
Yeah.
But like the fact that you had a 3 hour conversation is
crazy.
That's great. Though. That means
you know what I feel like.
What?
Yeah. I feel like it got to this point because he's getting old. He's starting to, you know, produce more estrogen. He's becoming more feminine and soft. So he's getting more emotional as well. So it's like, yeah, he would never used to say words like "I love you" or like, you know what I mean? It's so weird and foreign to hear that kind of stuff. But it's like lately, or like now that he's older, he's able to say that, and without like any shame or like. For it took 23 years for him to come to a point where he's like, you know, "I love you, son." And it doesn't feel weird. I'm like, at first it was like, what did you say? Like, what the heck, though? Like, what are you saying, kind of thing. But it's like, it's just tossed around now. So yeah, praise God. Like,
that's great, man.
It's interesting. Sorry, I went off on a tangent.
No,
but
it's a
like,
beautiful story.
Yeah.
I still remember the day that my grandparents said it to my dad properly, and
wow,
he's very emotional that day. And
right.
Unfortunately, I feel like a lot of parents from different ethnic backgrounds, they struggle with the same issue. And like that's with my dad as well. Like with my dad's family having its roots in Jamaica, it's similar issues with some of the men, very stern, very traditional. They can be very warm as well, but they can just be very manly, you know?
Yeah.
The
old school definition
manly,
of masculine. Yeah. I feel like this could be another topic we can talk about.
Yeah. This is a whole other podcast.
Like
but
masculinity.
I would love to talk about masculinity.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Same.
So, yeah. Well, thanks for sharing with that. I know you feel like it was a tangent, but I don't think it was, because I guess when it comes to healthy relationships is that it shows that you can sometimes, and this isn't me speaking for you, David, this is just in general, it just made me think sometimes all you can be missing is one of these key factors, and it can cause a lot of issues. People feeling like they're not being heard, people feeling like they're not being loved, people feeling like they're not being paid attention to, all these things. And once again, I'm not talking about your situation, David, I'm just talking about in general. I've spoken to a lot of boys through some of the work that I've done who felt like they haven't had present fathers, who their fathers have been trying so hard to provide for them a affluent lifestyle that they haven't had the actual time to spend with their kids. And at the end of the day, like, that's what's going to cost you in the long run. It's not about that extra dollar. It's about that extra hour. Like, it's It's really
Yeah,
about
man.
the time missed that's going to cost you. It's not about, as much as we like to idolize it, that material lifestyle of having everything you want and not struggling. You're going to struggle a lot more if the relationships in your life aren't right than if the money in your life isn't right. Like it's,
Yeah, man. You can't gain back time.
yeah.
I feel like people are like science is getting to the point where people are trying to live as long as they can and make
Mm.
long life longer and stuff, but like you can't you
Tell you what, man, as well, like
time is so
you can
precious.
work like in a profession for ages and you finally make it, right? And then you get all that money that you never had, and it's just like finally this like it doesn't matter that you didn't have money before because you do now, but that doesn't how that's not how relationships work. You can't just like neglect a
Yeah.
relationship for like years and years and years, and all of a sudden, oh, it's fine, and it doesn't matter about what happened before because it absolutely does. Relationships are built on experience as well as all these other factors. And if your
Yeah.
experience has been negative with that person, you can't just sweep it under the rug. You can't just pretend that it's not real. And that's something that I've like struggled with is some of my relationships in my life, like the people on the other end, trying to pretend as if certain things didn't happen. And they did. And I've definitely
It
had
just builds up, man.
yeah,
That
I've had
kind of stuff
friendships
just
which
builds
which
up.
have
Yeah.
eventually broken down because of the fact that certain things that happened in the past just weren't fully acknowledged. And even though they're fine in the moment, things happened. And you know, they happened. You know, it's not all just about forgiveness. It's also just about the fact that these wounds were made. And if you're just reminding someone of the wound that you gave that person, then that, you know, that's not a healthy relationship.
Yeah. For sure. I feel like there was a part of me where there was a bit of resentment or like there was a bit of like where were you when I was going through this kind of thing like towards my dad.
Mm.
But I feel like the thing that helped me understand and develop this relationship was my parents came here as like immigrants and they came and with like the
Sure, yeah,
survival
yeah.
mentality and to hustle and feed the kids kind of thing, and like their whole life was dedicated to kind of give us the good life kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, man, like with that in mind and where they came from, it was a huge stepping stone for me to accept him and embrace him as someone who's not perfect as well, but
Yeah. It's
you
funny,
know,
we
mm,
when we grow up, we go through certain stages, and the first stage is idolizing our parents, and we look up to them as if they're gods because
yeah,
they
the
literally created
Superman
us,
and
and like
yeah,
we look at them and we literally we idolize them. We think that they can do anything they want. We always think our dad is the strongest person in the world. You get into arguments at school about
yeah,
how your dad's stronger than you, and then so my dad's stronger than your dad, and
yes.
all this crap, and like, you know, same arguments about mums, maybe not about
Mm.
strength. You can choose another stereotypical characteristic of the female gender as opposed to a stereotypical characteristic of the
Nah,
male
bro.
gender.
Like mothers. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
No,
but
you're
just to
good.
add to that, like mothers are one of the strongest people in your life. Like you can
Oh, so,
argue
yeah,
if
yeah.
depending on.
I'm not.
Like I
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
like, yeah, no, I know. Like I'm not disagreeing with you, and I know you didn't mean that. But then just to add, like we don't mean that. Like I feel like my mom, I'm sure your mom is all like we can say that like they're like one of the most like strongest people in our lives. Like one of the like they made us, they brought us up, they gave us our names, they packed our lunches, they made sure we got good sleep, had a like everything's clean kind of thing. They fed us, they taught us like for my mom, it's like she was the one who's always been there to listen or like even nag at me. Like I really thank her for all the nagging that was there. When you're going through that time where you feel like the nagging won't stop and it's like, oh, why do they do this? But it's like when I look back now, it's like, oh, I deserved a lot more nagging, and like she was she was quite light on me. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
What was I saying? I'm all over the place today, man. I'm really sorry.
it's all right.
Oh yeah, sorry. The process of as we're grown up, and so yeah, we start
Yes.
off with that idolization, and then we sort of get to a point where it's a tipping point where we begin to care more about what our friends and what our peers at school think than what our parents think, and we stop seeking primarily the
Approval.
approval. Yes, thank you.
Yep.
The approval of our parents, and we start to seek more the approval of our friends and the people at
Yeah.
school, people our age, because we start to notice that, okay, young people are really different from old people. Why? Why am I trying to be like an old person when these young people who are acting a certain way, they're the cool ones, you know? So let me try and impress them. Let me try act more like them. And then it reaches a point with some people, some teenagers, where it goes completely the opposite way. And they don't just stop idolizing their parents, but they resent them and they demonize them even. And they start like, just because your parents do something that you never want to do that because that's wrong. And you refuse to understand, you refuse to put yourself in their position and think, hey, maybe the reason why they're trying to do this is not because they hate me, it's because they love me. And they're actually trying to protect me, or they're trying to prepare me for something, or they're trying to do all these things that might be better for me in the long run. But right now, I'm just about immediacy, and I'm just about getting what I want right now. And I'm having none of that long-term business, none of that. Just give me what I want right now.
Yeah. I feel like this is like, maybe it's even just coming from like our own experiences, but not all parents and children relationships are like this. I'm sure
Sorry, that is
there's
why I
ones where,
specified that this happens with some people. It does not happen with all of them.
yeah, some people, like, you, maybe it's because they hide it so well, but you look at them and you're like, wow, like they're like really good.
What, their relationship?
Yeah. Or like,
Man,
you know what I mean? Or
yeah.
maybe it's more so like they hide it really well. Like, especially in Asian culture, there's this thing of like, there's a lot of shame in showing weakness or bad traits or bringing shame to the family name kind of thing. I'm not sure what it would be like for you, or
I think
for your
it's
family.
universal. It just may not be as extreme. The fact of the matter is that every family has its issues. Every family, and some are bigger than others. But every family has issues, and maybe it won't be in your instant family, but there will be issues in your extended family. Some instant families are super close, but they have extended family who they are like way out of touch with. Like something really bad has happened, and sometimes that can help unite your instant family, but at the cost of your extended family. I haven't
even met. Yeah,
it comes from different. You're coming from different trees, different family trees. Sometimes when you're talking about cousins and aunties and uncles, they might come from a different place, different time, even like if there's big age gaps, and you can be completely different to some parts of your family, and sometimes that's fine, but other times that can cause massive friction and can even grow hatred between families.
Ooh, spicy.
That is most definitely not a healthy relationship.
Yeah, I don't know where we're going with this, but maybe we'll tune back into healthy. I think we were going healthy, and then we talked about a bit more.
So what have we got? We've said, you said intimacy, trust, and what was the last one? Respect. We didn't really talk about respect. And then we've got communication and patience. So we've got 5. That's nice. That's a nice round number.
That's a good number. That is a good number.
I think respect is super important, because we're just talking about relationships that might not be as healthy, but I feel like respect is such a good antidote to toxicity in relationships, because I feel like even if maybe you don't, if we take family for example, that's a good example, because you'll always love your family. Well, most people love their family, but you might not always like your family. And if you have respect for your family, then that solves so many issues if you don't like your family. Because if you just respect each other enough to treat each other well enough just to get by and have a functional, healthy relationship without having anything more than what's necessary, like, that's still a healthy relationship. It may not be a blossoming relationship, but it's still healthy enough in a family context. If this was a friendship context, I would say, why are you keeping them in your life if you don't want anything more? Because I think that you're always yearning to be closer with people in your life. Otherwise, why are they there? People that you want in your life.
I feel like family, like, where I would slightly, I don't know if I disagree, or like, one thing I would add to family is that the root, I feel like what I'm going to say is, like, the root should still be love. And I feel like that love is, like, they say blood is thicker than water, or like blood is, you know what I mean? Like there's a connection that you have with family that is much deeper than something you might have with friendship. Maybe you disagree. I feel like
No, I would
families
just,
are,
I
yeah,
just would say that I did say this is for people who do love each other, but not necessarily
right,
getting on
right.
very well. So the love is still there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just that
So,
they're struggling to like each other because we don't always like everyone that we love, not all the time at least. But if the respect
yeah, for
remains there,
sure.
then you can navigate those difficult waters until maybe you can get to a point where you start liking each other again.
It's about, yeah, it's about, I guess it even points back to intimacy, but it's like if you just know that person, sometimes it's like sometimes you understand that person just needs space. Like it's you understanding that that person might have had a bad day or is going through something.
Sure. I guess I'm not talking about a bad day. I'm talking about like this is long-term
Just
stuff.
just this, okay, something that just goes,
Like in reality, maybe you haven't experienced this because it seems like
yeah.
you're not identifying with this issue as much, but there are plenty of people out there who
Mhm.
love their parents, love their siblings, love their uncles or whatever. They love them, but they really don't like them as people. And so
Mm,
without respect, that can really get toxic and it can really fall apart and it can turn into a massive mess that consumes you. But with respect, it can at least maintain enough. It can just maintain enough structure that it doesn't go into complete chaos because that
right.
respect keeps that order there. And so even if you don't necessarily really like that person, with the love and respect, it's enough to get by and just to make the best of what is. You're born into that family. You don't have a choice about whether to get rid of that person in your life or not. They're there for
Mm.
keeps, right? You can't just kick them out.
So it's either that or you leave
Yeah,
like as
but
soon as you
yeah, if
can.
this is
But
one person, then you don't want to leave your whole family just to get away from one.
I feel like, so I feel like not that I couldn't relate, it's just like I was thinking more the situation of the family now. Cause I feel like before I became a Christian, I think I didn't really like the ranking for like priority was like it may be friends over all other things. Like friends before family, but
Yeah,
that
sure.
definitely changed after I met God. But yeah, so the respect wasn't there before, but now that it's definitely there, it's like, yeah, I'm just looking at the case, what's happening right now. Maybe
Mm,
that's why
mm.
I definitely understand you, because before I could get into this side with me and my dad, like I didn't respect him. I feel like when I was younger, and then as I got older and he showed less attention and he used to just beat me and whoop my ass and stuff, it's like, yeah, it's like, I think, yeah, it got to the point where it's like, why are you even my dad, kind of thing. And then it cut out, and there's like, I don't even have good memory of like high school. I don't know what happened in that. It's like a black void. And then
Sure.
we reconnected now. So it's like, yeah, that's why it's more crazy to me. It's like we sat down for 3 hours and talked. It's like he couldn't listen to me for 30 minutes before we got into an argument. It's like, yeah.
Mm,
Mm-mm.
mm.
Maybe what we can even go into is like um healthy romantic relationships. Because Jack, you're an expert in this field, aren't you, mate? With 5 years going
Oh,
strong,
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
maybe even like a question I could have is like, what do you like? You said patience already, and you said like you did already say a lot of things, but it's like, what do you feel like is one of the most um well experienced and learned things while dating? You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like, oh, I wish I knew this prior to when I was, you know,
There's nothing that I would say I wish I knew this because
yeah.
um the best thing about Amelia and my relationship in my life is, so not just to as the relationship but just the effects in my life, is that we've grown together. And so like
Mm,
she has taught me things about myself that have helped me grow, and she's encouraged me when I've learned things about myself to improve or to, just grow as an individual. And she's done the same thing, and we've helped each other both from in terms of provoking those growths, but also encouraging each other when they encountering something. And so like I don't know how she deals with me, to be honest, because I'm like flux. I'm in flux, like especially at the moment. I'm constantly
man, she's patient.
just changing, and she most definitely is patient, man. She I made her wait a long time for not just us dating, but I'd had a lot more experience in terms of relationships than she had. She'd had none. And
Right.
I'd been with some other girls in some relationships, and I really didn't want to be getting back into another one. And she literally popped up when I did not want to be in a relationship at all. And she showed some serious patience, to tell you that much, to wait for me. Like, we're talking like a year of like, you know, of on and off, well, not on and off, just not even, just hovering over the button pretty much. Even going as, like, we were going on dates and stuff, but we weren't official. Like, and keep in mind, we were 16 at the time, so this is not normal for 16-year-olds. And eventually she basically told me, like, I'm going to leave you if you don't ask me out, or if you don't make this official. Ooh. And so and like, she forced me into it, but I'm so glad she did. I'm so glad she did, because like, I almost missed out on 5 years. Like, and because of that year before, we've kind of been together for like 6 years. And for context, guys, I am 22. And so it's been a minute.
It's been a minute, man.
But
I wonder what her side of the story is. But please continue.
Oh, we've talked about it a lot, so we're very familiar about what went down. So in terms of the things that I've learnt the most, I would say at the moment I'm putting, we're both putting on a big push in terms of communication. It's something that we really want to start improving on, because we're good communicators, but we can always be better, you know. And every single little disagreement we have, because we don't have big fights, but when we have little fights, like little things that everyone has in relationships, they're like, literally, I would say 95% of those things are caused by miscommunication, just a misinterpretation of what one of us was saying to the other, or just not saying anything. Like that's something. So I'm more likely to say something wrong, but she's more likely to just not say anything. And then oh man, that's so hard. And then it's just like, oh, so that was a problem and you never told me. And then it's just like, well, I am now. And it's just like, but like, we, as I said, like, all of our, like, to call them fights is an exaggeration. We've had maybe 2 fights in like the 6 years. And the rest have just been disagreements or things that we've done to upset each other. And I think I heard something really cool the other day. Here we go, guys. For those of you in a relationship, this is a great thing to do. And this, I guess, this doesn't even have to be, this is just any fight. If you ever are in a fight, here's a cool exercise to do.
Probably jab them in the throat. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, please go on.
No, probably don't bring this up during the fight, but discuss this before you're getting into a fight. And what you do is, and we're yet to try this, by the way, because we haven't actually had a proper disagreement since I told her about this, but both of you, no one is allowed to speak while the other person is speaking, right? Fair enough. That's a common one, but very rarely obeyed that rule. But
it's hard, man.
Hold by that rule. Just shut up and wait till the other person's finished speaking. And then before you're allowed to say anything, like your response, before you're allowed to say anything in return, you have to repeat back what their main point was to you. So, for example, David, if we're having a fight because because I cancelled on what we were supposed to record last minute
today,
and then you're really upset because I told you that I'd be available for a podcast later on tonight, but I double booked, then I can't return.
This is hypothetical. Like, this didn't happen, right? This is like,
then I can't respond to you until I can repeat back to you exactly what your problem with what I did was. And you have to be satisfied with the response.
Interesting. And this goes back to patience, man.
Yes. But what is super important is, because even when we're arguing, and when I say we, I'm talking about as people, even when as people we are arguing with each other, we're still misinterpreting because it's in the heat of the moment and our emotions get the better of us. And so we hear what we want to hear because we're trying to win this conflict, right? But the whole point of this is that it forces you to put yourself in the other person's shoes. So if you're someone who struggles to empathize with other people, especially when you're pissed off, then this activity will be really good for you because it forces you to. It says, no, until you understand what that person is feeling and saying, you can't respond. And then once you've had your turn, once they've had their turn, you're allowed to have your return. And then they have to respect you and do exactly the same thing back, where they are not allowed to respond until they repeat back to you exactly what you're feeling and thinking and what your side of it is.
What was it like before? Like you figured this out? Like was the fighting style, or like if you guys were upset at each other, was it as you said before, where it's like you would want to resolve the conflict right away with conversation or try to get to the point, and Amelia's more like silent treatment kind of thing? Or
no. Okay,
like,
so when I say silence, I don't mean silent treatment. I just mean more like she won't say something that I've done that has hurt her because she'll think, oh, like it's not worth it because it's going to cause an argument or a disagreement, and I don't want to cause a fuss when it's just something little, and actually it maybe was little, but it affected her a lot, and so it's important because I want to know. So then I can either stop that or we can discuss, so why is this affecting you so much? Maybe that's something that we need to explore together, and not me saying, here's your homework, go find out why you're so touchy about said subject. No, it's let's explore this together because I want to help you. I'm not just ending this conflict because I don't want to have it anymore. I'm ending it because this isn't about us, right? Don't get me wrong, this is just an example. I'm not bringing up something that has happened in the past.
Sure.
With me, something that I have a big struggle with is I crave closure. In every single conflict I have, I always feel like I have to have closure. In other words, I feel like it needs to be resolved, whether that resolve finishes in us still in disagreement, but at least everyone having their say, or in hopefully with a resolution where it gets resolved.
Sure.
And that for me comes from, it comes from several relationships, not romantic, some romantic, some not. It's not specifically romantic, where I felt like they just ended without really too much explanation. And so I didn't really get that closure from those events. And so still to this day, that affects me, where I feel the need to receive closure in conversations where I'm having. And so it's not enough for it just to, okay, agree to disagree. That's not enough because I feel like I'm not being understood. I feel like I'm not being heard. And so I feel the need to really like sit down and just have this conversation. And so one of the first things I do these days when I'm like texting someone or messaging someone, and then I can tell a disagreement has begun, I'll, if possible, just pick up the phone and talk to them straight away. Because straight away I'll be like, okay, I think I can tell where this is going. Like you actually are misinterpreting what I'm saying, and I think I'm misinterpreting what you're saying as well. But at the same time,
sometimes that's difficult through text, though.
Yeah. Well, that's why I just pick up the phone wherever possible, or just as hard as it is sometimes, just waiting to see that person, which can be really difficult because you just want to say your piece. And I've definitely been guilty in the past. I'm getting a lot better at it, but effectively mansplaining, not from a sexism standpoint, just from a point of view where I do this with other men as well, so it's not really mansplaining. I actually hate that term. I don't know why I used it, but just for the trends, just for the likes, just for the reaction. No, I'll over explain what I'm trying to say, so that I feel like I've been understood to the greatest capacity that I can be, and that comes from
you're good
feeling,
at doing that.
I'm doing it right now. Hey, doing it right now. But I feel like that comes from experiences where I felt like I wasn't being listened to, and I wasn't being heard, and I wasn't being understood, and I wasn't being really paid attention to. It was just like, and I feel like that has meant that sometimes I am prone to finding it a lot harder than some to just shut up and listen. And I'm getting a lot better at it. I've been doing research actually about active listening and how that's different from passive listening. And stopping myself, which is really difficult because, like, little insight into podcasting, guys. When you're interviewing someone, you have to have questions lined up in your head, right? And the big thing about active listening is you're not supposed to be waiting to jump in with your response. You're supposed to be fully listening to what they say until they're finished, and then you respond to it. But the problem is that when you're passive listening, someone will say something. So David will be telling me about his day, and he says, oh, I went to the cafe, and then I went for a walk with my dog, and then I went for this and that. And I wouldn't have heard any of the rest of the stuff because I'll just be thinking, oh, well, what did you get from the cafe? And then when he finishes, I'll say, what did you get from the cafe? And he'll be like, oh, yeah, I got my, soy kappa with oatmeal and all this soy, and that. Yeah. And then he'll say, so what did you think about that thing about the dog park? And I'll be like, what dog park?
And then you'll be like, what? Yeah. Exactly.
And so that's something that I've been working on. And in relationships, this comes back to communication. In my relationship, that's definitely forced me to definitely take that more seriously, in the fact that I do sometimes struggle to just shut up and listen and just sit there and actively listen. And so that is something that's definitely from my relationship been helped and I've gotten better at. But in general, we've grown as people together, and like, because we started dating when we were 16-year-olds, we're different people to them, like the next 5 years, we won't change as much as when the last 5 years. Cause we were kids, we're teenagers. And I never ever take for granted how privileged I am to be able to grow up with someone who I'm that connected with. People often say to me, people sometimes say to me, like, do you know how lucky you are? And I'm just like, hell yeah, I do. You don't know how lucky I am. Like, you think you know, you got no idea. Like honestly, and that's not supposed to be like, that's not supposed to be like that. It's just like,
Mama.
When I try and imagine situations, like certain things that I've gone through in the last 5 years, and try and imagine doing them without her, I just don't think I could. Like, just flat out, I just don't think I could. And
that's really sweet.
And
she's probably getting butterflies right now.
In that respect, like, retrospectively, I do take it for granted, but in the moment, I never do. But retrospectively, I do sometimes look back and think, I can't even imagine what it would be like just to not have always someone there. And I'm so fortunate that I've always had someone there where, like, maybe my other friends are ghosting me because I keep blasting up their phones, but there's always someone who's happy to see that little hopefully, maybe not always, but most of the time, happy to have that little ding on their phone when I shoot them a message. So yeah,
I feel like, so one thing, and then I think we can even wrap up. But I feel like you were just saying, like, you can't imagine what it would be like not having that person always there. I feel like people might struggle, like they struggle heaps once they get out of a relationship, and Absolutely. Then they're put into that position where it's like, oh, now I'm all alone. And then that's why people always try to chase, like, what do you call that? Rebound? Like a rebound of some sort, to be like, to make sure that void is filled and whatever. And
I'm guilty of that too, man. I'm guilty of spending a lot of my teenage years in relationships because I'm dependent. And I'm not going to pretend I'm not, because, like, it's easy to say I'm not now because I don't feel dependent because I've always got someone there. But if, like, I've been watching, have you heard of the show Afterlife with Ricky Gervais? It's on Netflix.
I know who Ricky Gervais is, but no, I haven't.
Man, you got to watch the show.
Is it the one where he looks really depressed?
Yes. Well, he is. He is. His wife's died, basically. That's how the show starts. He's and she's left him a video with, like, telling him how to try and live his life. And man, it's really tough to watch it sometimes. Like, it's very funny. It's very fun. I find it hilarious, but it's also just really sad at times. And Amelia and I just started watching it the other night, and we watched 4 episodes straight away. They're only half an hour, but we just binged it.
Okay.
And I was fine. Like, some bits hit me a bit because they were really sad, and I got a bit emotional. But, like, nothing really, like, triggered anything until after we stopped, and then I just started thinking, what would I do? What would I do if she died? And it just really, it overwhelmed me because it's just like, there's not much stuff for me that can just instantly bring forth emotion. And that's one of the few things that can just straight away just trigger something in me. And it's not just to do with her, like her and herself. Obviously, a huge part of that's to do with her and herself. It's also just to do with what would be left. And we've always said that we don't want to be codependent, and we don't want to have we don't want to be those people who are just like one half of us, well, one half of me is me and the other half is you. And it's just like, no, you have to be all you. You have to be all you, because this could end. I could finish this podcast, I'll get in my car and drive to where I'm going, and I could be in an accident, and it could just end like that. And if half of me, half of her is me, then she loses half of her everything. And that can't be gained back. She will lose a lot. I would lose a lot, but we need to be able to move forward, and that's going to be so hard. But if when people say you're my everything, it's just like you can't do that. Not only can you not live like that, but you also can't put that kind of pressure on someone else. You can't tell someone that you're their everything, because for all you know, they're trying to get out of this relationship, and when you tell them that you're their everything,
that puts all that pressure on their shoulders.
And it's a really complicated thing, because it's just like, when you're in love with someone, you don't want to hold back, but you need to have enough identity in yourself to be able to live independently.
Yeah.
And I think that's super important. I think if you lose your sense of identity, then it will affect your relationship, because you know why that person loves you? It's because of your identity. So if you lose that, then you're basically losing the thing that they fell in love with you for.
I feel like this can even go to a part 2, healthy relationships. But the last thing that I wanted to ask, thanks for sharing. That was really an insightful and honest answer you gave just there.
Well, man, you keep doing some awesome sharing, and then I feel the need to try and replicate that. So.
I'm just speaking my mind, brother. What I wanted to ask was, don't do that again. Nah, that was cool. What I wanted to ask is the question kind of started from when I was asking about you and Amelia. It was disagreements or arguments you might have, but what about when it comes to love? We touched very, very briefly on love language, right? What would you say your ranking of love languages, and what do you think Amelia's is based off what you know?
Okay. I sometimes forget all of them, so can you just repeat them to me, please?
So there's acts of service.
Yeah, acts of service, and there's gifts or something like that.
Acts of service, words of affirmation.
Yep.
Receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. Yeah.
So I feel like for me, it's really hard. I used to be a very physical person, in it used to be that physical was by far the highest. And I'm not talking about
right.
I'm not talking about sex or anything. I'm just talking about just physical shows of affection. Just in general. They don't need to be sexual, just physical forms of affection.
Or holding hands, or
anything, man. Just anything that's a physical form of affection. That used to be what gave me the butterflies the most.
Yeah, you would touch her eyebrows and her earlobe.
Just push her,
any form, right?
Squish her face together and just
squish her face.
Still do that. But I think words of affirmation is definitely one for me. I am one of those insecure people who sometimes needs to be reaffirmed to feel like I am as important as to that person as I want to be, and sometimes I just need to hear it, and so that can be really powerful for me.
Right. So
I don't know. It's for me I've become more and more to just all of them, apart from maybe gifts. I love gifts, don't get me wrong, but for me, a gift isn't I don't know. It's not something I associate with love. For me, love is more about the relationship than someone giving a gift. For Amelia, it's acts of service. That's her number one, which is funny because it's probably the one that I'm worst at. When I do think, I want to do something spontaneous, I'm always really good at it when I do it, if I can say that. maybe that was a
Right.
bit too
Amelia
overconfident.
might
Maybe
think
ask her.
otherwise. Yeah.
But I feel like
Yeah.
she would agree. When I decide to do
Sure.
something, I go all out and I do my best to
Yeah.
make it as special as possible. And I'll keep it a surprise and everything. And like still, one of her favorite days for us was when I planned out a whole day and we did like 3 or 4 different activities that she wanted to do. And I kept it all a secret. And that was really fun, and I really enjoyed it actually. And seeing how much she appreciated it was really, really nice for me as well. But yeah, I think words of affirmation for her as well, which is the one that I'm best at, because I never shut up. So, like when it comes to saying nice things, that's something that is a lot easier for me to do than to actually plan and be decisive over certain things.
You write her an essay every night.
Bro,
This is what I like about you, and this is what
Oh.
you're amazing at, and this is who you are.
I sometimes worry. I sometimes worry that I say things too much and that they become numb. Like there's only so many
Right.
times you can tell someone that they're good at this or that they're beautiful or that or whatever before eventually it stops being as special as it
Loses
was.
its impact. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of love languages, I think we both reciprocate with all of them, but I think primarily I'm words of affirmation. If you say the right words to me, I'll just start crying.
Yeah. Your glasses look so good tonight.
But with her, yeah, I think it's more about me seeing that I've gone out of my way to try and do something special for her. That really seeing that I put in the time. And she's so good at that, man. She's really good. Like for my birthday, she got me a whole box full of stuff, which was all little, nothing that she spent money on really. It's just all little things from like memories or like, she made like a slideshow, like not slideshow, like a video montage of like all these photos of me and like all the way from kind of in chronological order from the start to now. And that was no one's ever done anything like that for me before. And that was really.
Did you cry?
Maybe
Be honest.
No, I got teary. I didn't cry. I definitely got teary.
Man tears.
It was just every now and then I'd see something and it would like there were photos in there that I'd never seen before. Like it was crazy.
Right.
Yeah, it was, and then we went back through and then we talked about each one of the moments, and that was really nice to reflect on, like the good things that happened. There were a couple of really cringe things in there, which I will not ever repeat. No one's ever seen that video.
I would definitely want to see that video.
Nah, man, you're never seeing
I'm
it.
gonna ask Amelia for the video.
But yeah, it was. Yeah, I suppose we all. I think we all can reciprocate to all the love languages. It's just some people reciprocate more to others.
Yeah, like when you said gifts is like you don't reciprocate it with love. Like that would surprise a lot of people because it's like I feel like a lot of people put. I guess you could even say,
but there's a blend between act of services and gifts, and if you put a lot of effort into a gift, it sort of becomes an act of service in a way, if that makes sense.
sure, like the box that you received
exactly, yeah,
of goodies and the montage
and I suppose
video.
that's why for me that one's so special because I can see the effort she put in, and
yeah,
but also because it's a beautiful gift, you know. Also, it reminds me
Yeah.
of a lot of things and brought back a lot of pleasant memories that I hadn't remembered in a long time. So yeah, I think they're all great. Like no one's gonna turn down any of those things. No one's gonna turn down like maybe some people
You're
might
not
be
gonna be like, no, sorry, I don't believe in gifts. You can just take it home.
some people might feel a little insecure or like uncomfortable about certain things. But yeah, like also guys and girls, write letters, man. Letters are beautiful. And I'm not talking about
letters.
I'm not talking
I
about
like
a
writing
card,
letters.
and I'm not talking about sending a message, a long message. I'm talking about a letter, like an actual like pen and paper.
Handwritten.
Pen and
Yeah.
paper, yeah. Like it's there's something special about it. There's something special about it, and I'll say that.
I agree to that, man. I receive letters that just make your heart just feel like you put 5 blankets on top and it's just so warm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
I've been on a retreat before where part of it is you receive letters that you didn't realize you were getting, and everyone on the retreat is just crying.
Yeah, man, I've heard these stories before.
But it's just a really, really beautiful experience, receiving something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I got to say. We ended up talking about love, kind of, rather than
But I think it branches, man.
yeah.
Definitely branches. And
Well, I suppose what we've discovered is love is very important in relationships. Who knew?
love is key. Maybe like we started with the three, like what makes healthy relationship, but maybe it's love, and then it sprouts out to these three things. That's a story. That's a lesson of the day, guys.
What
Lesson of
I'll
the
say
day.
about that is that I've been really trying to hold back this feeling for so long. And if you feel like I feel, baby, then come on. Oh, come on.
I've been really trying, baby.
Ooh, look at you. Geez, someone's been practicing.
Yeah, man. Every day in the shower.
I guess like since you've been at home all cozy.
Yeah. Cozy, yes, indeed. Ho 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 ho. Oui.
We were.
Yeah, bro. But we've been rambling on for a while now. So just to close up, wait, did you have any other last comments?
No.
Usually you ask me, but
Well, I mean, I was going to, but we kind of ran out of time. Hey,
yeah.
like I was gonna. What's your love language? Like your most connected.
I think I'm similar to you. I definitely agree that like I'm all five, but words of affirmation is number one for me as well.
Mm.
I think number two might be physical touch, and then three is acts of service, and then quality time, and then gifts. But that always changes, and I feel like it changes as I grow.
I do really
But-
appreciate quality time.
Yeah,
Especially
man.
especially like as my interpretation of quality time has shifted. Like I love having challenging conversations with Amelia because like it's something we never used to really do. But we had some awesome chats today just about stuff, like just about topics which are like challenging, and just it was just really good. Like I love having someone to bounce off intellectually as well as like emotionally, like someone who can challenge me as a person and as like challenge my brain as well as my heart. That's what you want. You want someone who
Connecting, bro.
yeah,
It's
you
called connecting,
want
yeah.
someone who's going to challenge you because you want to grow in your relationship, and if they're not challenging you, if you have to stoop down to their level, you're never going to grow.
Yeah. Nice quote of the days today from today's pod. I think this could go on to part 2, bro, but should we wrap up?
Let's not call this one a part 2. I'm not as confident as I was about the faith one, but let's wrap up. But let's tie a
wrap
knot on
up.
it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. This was definitely a tan and chill episode.
This was very chill. This is
very chill.
tangent. Like
Tangent.
tangent.
Oh. Tangent. But yeah, thanks for listening once again. If you reached this far, mad love. Congratulations to Brandon. And yeah, stay tuned for next week's episode where we will actually have a guest on. We won't disclose that yet, but yeah, look forward to that, guys. It will be a change of pace.
I wonder who it will be.
All
right, guys. Thank you for joining us for another week. Peace.
Catch you next episode.
That was so smooth, man. You should just stick with peace.
Peace.
Peace.